Well, hello everybody, my name is Steve. Today what I'm doing is, it's a beautiful day here in Adelaide, in the suburb where I live, and so I'm just at a local park, and what I thought I'd do is make a video on how I set up and use my hammock camping system. I'm planning on a kayak trip in about 4 weeks time, so I thought I'd do a series of videos on just what I do, just to give you a few ideas, maybe just to add to your repertoire of techniques and ideas that you use. If you've never done any kayak camping before, or even if camping is new to you, then you might pick up some things that will give you some ideas that will help you enjoy this wonderful life of outdoors and camping and so on. So let's get started. Okay, so what I have here laid out is the kit that I take with me when I do go camping, and particularly hammock camping, which is what I do mostly these days. And I'll just go through each of these items. So you'll have to look at my hand. Here is my sleeping bag. It is a Dura 2 sleeping bag by DD. They make sleeping bags, they make hammocks, they make tarps, they make all kinds of things. That sleeping bag, absolutely fantastic, and I'll show you a little bit about that. In this bundle here is my hammock, which I'll be pitching shortly, and I'll show you how that all works. My tarp, which is a DD 3 metre by 3 metre tarp, fantastic tarp, military grade tarp. My underquilt, which I have in this bag here. A mosquito net, which is this here, mosquito net, a fully enclosing mosquito net. That's the main features. Have some walking poles that I use as poles for you know, creating an awning and that type of thing with the tarp. Have some pegs. I have both the plastic heavy duty pegs, fairly lightweight, very strong, and I also have some titanium lightweight pegs as well. So I have plenty of pegs with me. Always find you you never have enough pegs, and that all fits in this Sea to Summit compressible waterproof bag, and that compresses down to a pretty small package, which fits quite comfortably in my hammock. So in my kayak rather. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll pitch the hammock itself, hang the hammock up, and show you some of the features of that. Okay, so I have my hammock hung, and I'll go through some of the features of that with you. As you can see, it's a bit of a windy day today, so it looks like it's going to make a particularly brilliant sail too today. I've never tried a hammock as a sail, but I reckon that would probably work too. So I'll go over a couple of the features of the hammock as it is, as it's set up in its initial stage. There's a lot of other things I'm going to do to it yet. But first of all, the way that I actually hang my hammock and the strapping system. With this particular hammock, it's a DD. This is a Hammock Bliss Skybed. It's one of the few things I don't have, the DD. Beautiful hammock, very, very comfortable, really good hammock. It's a pretty simple setup as far as how it comes out of the box, but what I have done is I've adjusted and adapted a strapping system that is a bit different. This just came with this type of cord all the way around, and I don't like using cords. I'd rather use straps for a whole range of reasons. So as you can see there, I've hand sewn a strap through that knot there. Got a buckle, a tension buckle that I use, strap going through there, and the way that I tie or hang my hammock is I run a strap around the tree and back. There's a loop on the end, and just through there I've got this set up here. It's just a loop made with a crown knot, and if you don't know how to tie a crown knot, there's videos on YouTube that can show you how to do that. And I've got this little slip tightener here, which is actually just a zip tie, electric zip tie, and that just stops that from popping out of that loop. And very, very simple. The way that I do that is I just pop that through there like that, slip that down, and that holds that there. Now also, one thing I do is I always have the strap hanging off a little bit off center, and that is so that that tension is always at its maximum when you're actually laying in the hammock. If you have that strap right in the center of the load, and you've got a tree which has got particularly slippery, smooth bark, you'll find that the strap will slip, or you've got to wind it around an extra wind in order to get tension. So if you just simply put it off center like that, the more tension you put on that strap, the tighter it's going to get. This 550 paracord loop is more than enough. You've got 4 loops there, 4 strands of that 550, so it's plenty strong enough to take my weight and anybody's weight for that matter. And the strap itself is a polyester strap, and quite adequate, quite strong, and I've never had it slip, never intend to. But if you want to ensure that you don't get a slip in that strap, you can put a loop there. Just tie a loop through and that won't slip. As I said, it's a bit windy. Same on the other side. So there you go. That's how I hang the hammock. As you can see also in the hammock here, you've got a sleeve on this particular design, the Skybed. It's got a sleeve which is open this end, and that's designed to take a sleeping pad. And I'll show you how that fits in there. Okay, so here's my Thermarest base camp sleeping pad that I use, and very warm, very comfortable, nice and thick. Inflates to about 50 millimeters thick, 2 inches or so. So if I do need to sleep on the ground, it's a nice thick one. It's not the it's not the most ultra light. It's certainly not the most expensive or anything like that, but certainly does me very, very well. It's nice and durable, and I've used it many times, and I really like it. Now, what I've got here, I've got this just sitting in the hammock like this, and you'll notice that it fits in there quite nicely, and you could just sleep in the hammock like that on that sleeping pad, but you'd be sleeping with a banana shaped bow under you, which is okay for some. A lot of people don't find that very comfortable. So with this particular hammock, the Skybed, this sleeve is actually on a diagonal, and so you can sleep on the diagonal, which means that you get more of a flat kind of lay. And in order to keep that sleeping pad in place, they've got that built-in sleeve, which is a great idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that pad in that sleeve and then show you what it looks like there. Okay, so now that pad is in that sleeve, and you can see it there, and although it still looks like it's a fairly banana shaped lay, it's amazing that when you actually get in there, it actually is quite a flat lay. So it's really comfortable, and of course the sleeping pad is not going to move around, so you don't have that problem of wrestling to try to get a sleeping pad that's drifted away under you back in place and things like that. So that's the hammock. Got a little pocket on the side there as well for storing bits and pieces, and very, very durable. I've taken it on lots of trips and I'm very, very happy with it. Hammock Bliss Skybed, they make a range of different products, and this is one of the best that I've ever had. I think I've had about 4 or 5 different hammocks, and I love this and use it all the time now. I don't use any of my other hammocks anymore. Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of other features of this as I'll progress. Okay, so what I've got here now, I've attached my ridge line. Now it's just a line. I just use 3mm braided polyester cord along between the 2 end points of the hammock itself. Now the reason why I use a ridge line is because you'll find in sleeping in a hammock that you can have the hammock too tight, too straight, which causes ridges to occur and all kinds of things, and you can get uncomfortable, and you can also have it too loose. and be uncomfortable there too. So it's important to try to find the ideal comfort level, the degree of slack in the actual shape of the hammock. And one way to make sure that you get that right every single time, once you've found that ideal shape, is to use a ridge line that is set to the distance that you want between those two end points. And that's what I've got here. Now, a couple of features of this ridge line is that I'm using, to adjust the length, I'm using these prusik loops. And I love prusik loops. I use them all the time for any line that needs to be adjusted and can be adjusted and maintain tension. We've all heard of taut line hitches and things like that, which are all good, but wherever feasible I use prusik loops. I also use them in the middle of the ridge line here for hanging things like my glasses and maybe a headlamp and other things from the loops. Yeah, find them really handy. On this end, I've just got this attached with a taut line hitch. If you can see that, if you can get it into focus. Is it going to focus for me? Yeah, you can just kind of see a taut line hitch. You could use just about any knot on this fixed end, and the adjustable end is a prusik loop. The line just fed through the end of the hammock there, and it's adjustable. And I've just used a simple loop to fix the distance, and that can be adjusted. So if I wanted to adjust that, I just have to. I can even do it with one hand, just push that further along and adjust that way. Or obviously you can undo it, move the loop, and then adjust it again. So I've got this set up pretty much at the longest I'd like to. I like to actually have it a little bit looser than that. So I'd have to obviously undo my straps here, shorten the distance between the 2 points, lengthen the strap length here, and readjust the ridge line, and then I'll know that it's the right length. But I'm going to test out how that feels, because I do actually have to set it up ready for my next trip, because I actually washed the hammock last week, and so I'm going to set that up for myself now and get it right, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, yes, I think I've got that set up just about the way that I want. So that's that stage set up. Okay, so I've got the mozzie net rigged up now. It does take a little bit of effort to get it on, and that's why I leave it on, because it is a bit fiddly to put it on, take it off, put it on. So I just leave it in place and pack it up with the hammock all in one go, and that's the easiest way to do it. But I'll show you some of the features of this mosquito net, and we'll go from there. So first of all, you can see that the mosquito net is completely enclosing the hammock from underneath. It's got a floor in the bottom of the mosquito net, you can store bits and pieces in there if you want to, keep it off the ground. You've got a little pocket there if you want to utilize that for different things. You've got a zipper that runs right down from top to bottom in the middle of the hammock, which makes entry and exit easy. It's very fine no-seam mesh, which is great. You'll notice I've got these little points here. I actually made those so I can actually attach little guy lines and tie those points out. I don't really use it now. It was an idea at the time. It does actually work. You can actually peg the mosquito net out a little bit and give you a bit more room inside, but it's not really that much of a difference, so I don't usually use it now. As far as how it is set up on the ends, you've got the hammock actually coming through the end of the mozzie net here. This is actually a Hammock Bliss mosquito net, so that feeds through from inside, comes through the end of the mosquito net, and then it just cinches up with these little toggles here. It's hard to do with one hand. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's pretty straightforward. It also has a little ridge line that's attached to along the top of the mozzie net. I hope you can see it. It seems a bit dark. This video seems a bit dark. I hope you can see it okay. Anyway, that then just ties out around the tree trunk, and I just use a taut line hitch with a loop to attach that. And if I have to tie it out longer than that, I've actually got lines that I can attach to it. I've got some hoochie cord that I can attach to that. So that's pretty much how it works. It's also got pockets on the inside. If you can see there, pockets there, you can put things inside. Really good. And in actual fact, the mozzie net itself does help to keep the hammock warmer. Even though it's only a mesh, it's amazing how much difference it makes to the temperature in really cold weather. Probably holds the temperature a bit higher, about 2 degrees, which isn't a lot, but you know, every bit counts when it's freezing cold. So yeah, really love it. It's very easy to use once it's set up, and keeps the bugs out, and gives you a little bit of shade too in the summer. If you don't use your tarpaulin, you can sleep with the mozzie net on its own, and keeps the mozzies out, gives you a bit of shade and all that. Okay, so that's the Hammock Bliss mozzie net. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is how I hang my underquilt under the hammock as well. Now, a lot of people will say, well, if you've got a sleeping pad in your hammock, why do you need an underquilt? Well, one reason is because sometimes when you roll over in the middle of the night, it's very cold, you've got your sleeping bag around your shoulders, you'll roll against the side of the hammock, just the wall of the hammock, and you'll find that it's pretty cold. So the underquilt actually gives you just that extra warmth around your shoulder area. And it also comes in handy as a throw over as well. If you want something just to wrap around you at the campsite, if it's cold, or as an extra throw over, you might not need it underneath, but you might want it over the top. It's an extra bit of kit that you've got. Doesn't take up much room. This is only a 3/4 length down under quilt. Really lightweight. I actually can't remember the brand. I bought this a few years ago. Yeah, it's a really good quilt, but I can't remember who I bought it from. I'd have to go looking through all my receipts. So I'll show you how I hang that. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll get back to you when I've got it set up. Okay, I think you might be able to see the underquilt hanging under there. Hanging from there right up here around the top of my shoulder area, just here. Okay. As I said, it's only a 3/4 length underquilt. It goes from there, which is just about where my feet are. but not quite fully extending, to the end of my feet. It's got bungee cord that attaches to the corners of the quilt, runs through this prusik loop here that I've got, which is another great use for the prusik loop, and then attaches to the other side, so it's hanging underneath. It's reasonably tight, not real tight underneath there. You don't want it too tight to squeeze the air out of your underquilt, because that loses its insulation ability then. But it just hangs nicely, and it just gives that extra insulation to the shoulder area. There it is on the other side there. It's also got these little clips as well if you want to clip this on to hold that up that side. And it's got another one here, I think. Can't find it. No, it's just got the one. But yeah, so hangs nicely. Also, another thing is that if you don't have a sleeving pad, obviously you do need some insulation underneath you, and that's where the underquilt really comes into its own. Yeah, I have actually slept in the hammock without the under the sleeving pad, and with the underquilt it is quite warm, so it's a great feature. Yeah, that's my underquilt. Now I'll show you what I do with the tarp, and I'll put that over the top, and that'll complete the setup of the hammock. Okay, so that's the tarp setup. I'll just go through some of the features of how I've done that. First of all, to the ridge line of the tarp. What I have here, I have on the end of the tarp, I have these loops, and I have a little mini carabiner, and I have the tie-out cord attached to that. Now that runs around the tree, and it comes back to this little gizmo here. This is a Dutch clip of some kind, I forget the name of it, but really handy. You just loop the cord around that hook on the end of this, and then run it around these little wings, or look like antenna things on the end, and that holds that securely. It's amazing how easy that is to use. And so I do that on both ends. But that thing, that's looped through, once again, a prusik loop, which I can use to adjust. Now you notice that I had to adjust the position of the tarp a couple of times, because it takes a bit of time just to get it lined up exactly. And this tarp is just long enough to reach over the end of the hammock itself, so it gives it good protection. You can also rig the tarp up on the diagonal, and that pardon me, and that does actually extend quite a bit further on the end. So if it's particularly windy and rainy, and you want to eliminate the possibility of rain getting in on the ends of the through the ends of the where the tarp is, then you can do that by pitching it on the diagonal. But this is pitched square, and it works very well. Pardon me, I'm just getting over a bit of a cough. Now to the tie-out points. Once again, you'll notice I've got loops on the tie-outs, and all I've got there is just a very simple sheep shank type knot running through the loop, looping around and back through. I could go over all the details of these knots, but you can tie a bit of cord on the end of a loop, I'm sure. And if you can't, if you don't know how to do that, look on YouTube, and there's heaps of videos on knot tying. Once again, got the peg in the ground there. It's pretty soft soil here, so I had to actually take a bit of time to get the pegs right. Once again, I've got a prusik loop which slides up and down the line, loop through, and then just with a simple overhand loop to tie that in place. These are really handy for tying out tie-out points on tarps and tents and guy lines and things like that. Very handy. So I've got 6 lines running from the tarp. And then, of course, you saw me, I put up this walking pole as a bit of a veranda type setup. Just makes it easier to get in and out of the tarp on the sides, and you could set up a bit of a campsite underneath the tarp, a table, do some cooking, whatever, if it's in rainy conditions. So that's the tarp setup. Oh, you will notice too, on a couple of tie-out points I've got this bungee set up. The idea of that is that the bungee is designed to take the strain. If you get a gust of wind, heavy gust of wind, and it threatens to pull out the tie-outs or tear your tarp, these bungees are designed to absorb that extra tension. I don't know how effective it is. I find there's enough give in the tarp and the ridge line itself to avoid that sort of thing. So I don't, as they're wearing out and I'm taking them off, I'm not replacing them. It's just another thing to have to worry about. But it works fairly well. This is once again a DD tarp. Really good quality tarp. Takes a lot of wear and tear. I've had this for a few years now, and yeah, works really well. And you can actually use it quite effectively as a tarp for pitching a tent, and I'll do a video on how to do that as well. So that's my complete setup now for the hammock. You can see under here, you can see it's nicely sheltered under there. The hammock hanging nicely there, all off the ground. And what I would normally do then also is put a ground sheet underneath all that, put my gear on that ground sheet, and keep it all dry. So hope you've enjoyed this video. Happy to answer any questions that you have. If you would like to subscribe, you're welcome to. If you have any suggestions on how I can make a better video, give me those as well. I'm certainly no professional, but I just hope that you've got something out of this, and got some ideas that will help you enjoy your camping trips, and I hope you get into hammock camping. That's great.